Hi guys, so today we'll take a look at the math object given to us by Javascript. So I've opened up my JS field window. Now let's start by defining a variable called d, and let's say math.py, right? And let's try and output the value of d. Let's see what happens. So it gives us the exact value of pi. Now math is the object that's given to us by JavaScript. It's a static object, and you get all these functions like pi. Now you don't have to define these kind of variables on your own if you're coding. You can instead use the variables given to us by the math function. So this is very useful, right? Because you can make a typo here or get this value wrong. Rather than that, just use math.py whenever you need the value of pi in any calculation. You can also find this get the square root of 2. Now these are terms that you require quite often, right? Like square root of 2. So you can get the value directly. So math has already defined these values. You can also get the square root of 1 by 2, which I'm not sure how useful it is, but it's still there. Just a great thing to know. You can also find the square root of anything, basically. If you say square root in small caps and then you pass any value here like 64, let's say, you get the square root, which is 8, right? So I hope that makes sense. Now it also gives you the natural logarithmic value of 2 and of 10, right? So 0.69 and 2.30. Again, these two are very useful only if you are using JavaScript for data science, right? And to run a lot of calculations, only then it makes sense. Otherwise you might not need this. And you also get the value of log 1 and log 10, right? And now let's talk about math.round function. So basically it rounds off the values, right? So if I have 4.2, it's going to give me 4. And if there's a value bigger than 4.5, let's say 4.7, it's going to give me 5, because that's the closest to it. And now there is ceiling and floor as well. If you have any programming background, you know what ceiling is. Ceiling is basically, it's going to quite literally going to touch the ceiling with this, which is basically even if it's 4.2 or 4.7, is going to give me 5, because that's the bigger number after 4. So it's going to give me 5 here. Even if I say 4.2, is going to round it off to the ceiling, which is 5 again, right? If I say floor is basically the number smaller than 4.2, which is 4, closest to so 4 is the closest number to 4.2, which is smaller than 4.2, is going to give me 4, right? So floor is going to round it off to the floor and not the ceiling. And if I say 4.7, again it's going to round it off to the floor, which is 4 again, right? So I hope that makes sense. Now let's take a look at truncate. Truncate is basically going to remove everything that's after the dot. So it's going to give me 4 only. Now with negative numbers, how this works is, let's say if I say floor minus 4.7, so it'll give me minus 5, because minus 5 is actually smaller than 4, right? And if I say ceiling, I get minus 4, because minus 4 is bigger than minus 4.7, right? So in negative numbers, it's completely reverse. Now if I say truncate here, I just get minus 4. It just removes everything after the dot, right? Now let's say sign. So this gives me, if this is a positive number or negative number, it says minus 1. And if it was a positive number, it would say 1. It works like that. And if I say 0, it gives me 0, right? Now there's another function called math.power, where you can say 8, 2, and it's going to give us the square of 8, right? So 8, and you give the power of 2 to 8, you get 64. 8 to 64. And then you have another function called absolute, where let's say you put the value minus 4.7, right? And you get 4%, which is basically the absolute value. Basically ignore the negative or positive sign and just give us the absolute value of the number, right? Then you have math.minimum. This is very handy and very useful. Let's say you had a couple of numbers here, 52 and 13 and 21 and 57. Now this is just an example here, but let's say you're receiving an array or a set of values that are in hundreds, right, from an API or from some kind of a let's say data source, and then you want to find out the maximum value, or the minimum value in all these values. So you can easily do that by doing math.min, and you get the minimum value, which is 1. You can also find the maximum value by math.max, and which is 57 in this case, right? And you can also get math.random, which is a random value. Math.random, random is a function, so you have to put these two round braces ahead of that. If you say that math.random, then you get 0.49, which is a random value between 0 and 1. So if you wanted a random value between 0 and let's say 0 and 9, right? So what you would do is you would just multiply this by 10, and then let's see what happens. You'll get a random value between 0 and 9. But if I want a whole number, right? So I'm going to say math.floor. So now I'm going to get a whole number because it's going to floor round off to the floor, and it's going to give me 6, any value between 0 and 9. If I wanted a value between 0 and 10, I would just say multiply by 11. So if it's giving me another random value called 0, right? So if I wanted a value between 0 and 100, I would just say this and multiply by 100. 0.99, sorry, this was for 0.99. If I wanted a value, because it's going to give us floor, right? So it's never going to give us 100, it's always going to give us 99. And if we say if we wanted a number between 0 and 100, so we'd say 101 multiplied by 101. So it'll say 99 or any other number, basically 3 or 82, whatever, right? So what's happening here is it's giving us a random number between 0 and 1. We're multiplying that by 101, right? And then we're just flooring it. We're just rounding it off to the floor. That's how we get a whole number between 1 and 100, right? So I hope that makes sense, and hope today's video was helpful. Don't forget to subscribe if you like the videos, and see you in the next episode. Thank you.